Hi everyone, welcome to this Diablo Immortal video. So in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the Necromancer Bone Spirit Essence for the shield called Death's Egress. So as I said, this is a Bone Spirit Essence for the shield, and basically what it says is Bone Spirits now draws essence from nearby enemies, conjuring a Bone Spirit for each enemy affected that rapidly orbits you, damaging enemies it passes through. Bone Spirit's damage increased by 18%, and if you have this in an awakened slot you get an additional 10% damage increase. So it sounds pretty cool, especially that you're going to get Bone Spirit spinning around you. Might work well together with Grim Scythe and Corpse Lance, we'll have to see. So just going to do a bit of an overview, see how it works and play around with it a little bit. So we have the essence equipped now. Let's take a look to see what it actually looks like. So when you're using this essence, obviously if you don't have any enemies nearby, it won't do anything. So it's not an essence which you can trigger at the start of a battle and then rush into a battle and start using it. This is something which you need to get quite stuck in for, which means it's not really an essence that I'd use in PvP much. Now, Bone Spirit builds, I tend to usually use them in PvP environments. I've gone through some builds before, like a Scarecrow one I've used in some previous Essence videos where I use Bone Spirit in PvP. I rarely use it in PvE, but this particular Essence would actually make me want to use Bone Spirits in PvE, and I'll show you why. So yeah, if you use it anywhere else where there's no enemies, it won't do anything, but you can see the range is quite large on this one, so all you need is an enemy within that range. When you use it, it will cast, and then you'll get a spinning Bone Spirit around you like that. That lasts for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly 5 seconds it lasts for. If we have a look at the cooldown on the right is 5 seconds as well. And the more enemies that you have, the more of these spinning Bone Spirits you can have around you. And as we saw, you can have up to 5, which is quite a decent amount actually, especially if they're all going to be doing damage at one time. So this is what it says in the skills tab. Spirit Congregation, that's the actual name of this skill. Bone Spirits now draws essence from nearby enemies, conjuring a Bone Spirit for every enemy affected to orbit you for 5 seconds, dealing 9,414 damage to enemies it passes through. A maximum of 5 Bone Spirits can be conjured at one time. Bone Spirits damage increased by 18% and an additional 10% damage. So that's basically what the essence does and what it looks like. I think the animation's pretty cool. I like that the green skull is quite a large one and it spins around quite fast as well. Obviously at the training dummy we can only get one because there's only one training dummy, so we'll have to have a play around with this at something like an Elder Rift training ground or something like that. In terms of the damage and breakdown, what's interesting is like it's nothing amazing. Obviously you're not going to get the most amount of damage using this compared to something like Grim Scythe or Corpse Lance, but you have got other essences which increase Bone Spirit's damage, so they can be paired nicely with that. So here we go, I'm just using it for a while. You know, nothing amazing, but as I said, you've only got one enemy here, so you're only going to get the one spinning spirit. Let's try this in something like Elder Rift training. I want to see more of the Bone Spirit spinning around me just to see what it looks like, so let's jump into there. Okay, let's see what it's like in this type of environment. So, oh wow, so there we go, we got 4. Can I get a 5th one? 2. So I need a better cooldown, or I need more enemies actually. Let me go further in so I can get a few more enemies. Here we go. There we go. So there we go, we've got 5 spirits spinning around me. Actually, that's not too bad, I quite like that. What would be cool is if we could just make the Bone Spirits last a bit longer, spinning around us, so increasing that 5 seconds. I'll have to see if Vitu's actually increases the duration of it spinning around. I'll do a bit of a test with that soon. But yeah, this is quite nice. Just seeing that amount of spirits spinning around you. And what I'm excited to see is how this pairs together with Corpse Lance and Grim Scythe as well, because that would be a really, really cool combination. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. That looks cool. Like I said, the animation is super smooth. It looks nice. I'm glad the skulls weren't too small as well. I like the trail that it leaves behind as well. That's quite nice. So yeah, it looked pretty decent looking essence. Okay, so we're back at the training area. So yeah, I really liked how the essence looked when you have all 5 of the Bone Spirits spinning around you. The animation was great, the speed of it was really nice, I like the trail of it as well, and it was quite fast as well when you do get 5. So this would be really handy in stuff like Accursed Towers, Elder Rifts, Terror Rifts, maybe even Hellslayer bounties. And as I said, this wouldn't really be an essence that you'd want to take into PvP, so this is more of a PvE essence in my opinion. Something where you'd want to be up close to the enemies, getting stuck in there. This isn't one where you want to stay back and attack like some of the other Bone Spirit essences, like the Wandering Wraith essence for Bone Spirits. That one you kind of want to stay back and let it do its thing. This one you really do want to get stuck in and just get up close and personal with this one. So what I want to check now is how this pairs together nicely in a build where you've got lots of spinning things around you for a Necromancer. So for example, the build I've got here, I haven't tried it yet. I do want to try this for the first time live kind of thing. What I've got is, if I have a look at the skills, I've got Bone Armor, Bone Spirits, Corpse Lance, Grim Scythe and Bone Spear. Let's see how all of this can work together nicely. So let's go back to the Essence tab. Okay, you'll notice that I have got a couple of slots which are not awakened. That's just because I had Starfire Shard and Morn Skull, which would have got in the way quite a lot when I was using the Essence just now. I didn't want to see lots of other stuff get in the way, so I removed those temporarily. So if we have a look at the chest, I've got Armor of the Damned, where Bone Armor consumes corpses, increasing the damage I deal. For the helm, Corpse Lance causes enemies to decay. For the shoulders, I've got Incision Cusp. This is where Bone Armor increases your critical hit damage by quite a decent amount. I mean, if you didn't want this, you could have Bone Armor increases your primary attack speed by 28.5%. That would make things even quicker when you are doing attacks with your primary. For the legs, I've got Grim Scythe now triggers all continual damage on the target it hits. For the weapon slot, we've got Grim Scythe now conjures Whirling Scythes around you. That's really fun to pair with this new Bone Spirit essence. Bone Spear poisons enemies with this weapon. And then we've got the essence we're looking at, Death's Egress, Spirit Congregation. So Bone Spirit now draws essence from nearby enemies, conjuring that Bone Spirit which rapidly orbits you. And then for the other shield one, I've got Vortex of Bones. So Corpse Lance now consumes nearby corpses, which the Corpse Lance has generated. And this is going to create that Vortex of Bones. So we're going to have Bones, Grim Scythe and Spirits orbiting us. So if you do Bone Spirits on its own, that's not going to do anything. If you do Corpse Lance on its own, that's not going to do anything because you need corpses. Grim Scythe is going to trigger these Whirling Scythes. That is going to generate corpses. And with those corpses, you're going to do Spinning Bones. And then on top of the Spinning Bones, you're also going to have a Spinning Bone Spirit. So this is the kind of thing that I was looking forward to trying, having Bone Spirits, Corpse Lance and Grim Scythe all working together. So let's see what this looks like in the Elder Rift training ground now. Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to try out the most, having everything working together. So we're going to have Spinning Bone Spirits, 5 of them. Then we're going to have these Vortex of Bones spinning around us. And then we're also going to have Grim Scythe spinning as well. So all 3 of these essences are pretty much a walking weapon at this point. All I have to do is run forward with all 3 of these skills combined. I'm not even using Bone Armor at this stage, but let's use that to increase some damage a bit more. And with this type of build, you kind of want to make sure you have your movement speed increased. So have a look at what you can enchant for your legendaries and trying to increase your movement speed so you can rush in these kind of scenarios. Look at that. I could probably put on a Paragon which increases the movement speed a bit more. Maybe Brawler might be quite fun to use as well with this one. And then obviously when you've just got the one enemy, then you're only going to get that one spirit around you. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to try out. I really was looking forward to trying out Grim Scythe, Corpse Lance and this Bone Spirits working together. Now obviously the downside is when you are at a boss, you're only going to get one of those Bone Spirits around you. And you might be better off using something like Skeletal Mages because you can have 2 or 3 mages spawning next to you when you are using Grim Scythe and Corpse Lance So when you're in a raid, I wouldn't really use this. When you're fighting just a single boss, I wouldn't really use this Bone Spirit Essence. So that makes me think that will be quite useful in Elder Rifts, Terror Rifts, and Accursed Towers, or even open world. It'll be quite fun to use this Bone Spirit Essence. So it's not terrible. It's not like a terrible Bone Spirit Essence. I think it's quite a fun one to use if you do have a Bone Spirits build. And obviously it's not one that you want to use in PvP either, because you've got to get stuck in. You're not really going to hang around long enough within enemies to have that 4 or 5 Bone Spirits spinning around you. So not really something I'd use in PvP or with a single boss or like raids or something like that. So let's now equip all of my legendary gems, and I'm just curious what the damage is like with this Bone Spirit Essence compared to when I had skeletal mages. So let me go ahead and do that now. Okay, I have all legendary gems equipped, so all of my slots are awakened and everything. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to see is if increased duration of beneficial effects has any effect on Bone Spirits. I don't think it would do, but I just want to see. So with the set item equipped, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that Bone Spirit hit the enemy 4 times. Let me just see what it's like without. So I don't have the increased beneficial effect, duration of 30%. Let me just see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it was pretty much the same. Okay, now what I want to do is I just want to use this build in full force and compare what it was like if I had the mages in this slot instead of Bone Spirits. So I'm just going to attack the training dummy for 1 minute. Here we go. And I'm just curious what we get here after 1 minute. So I would usually have Skeletal Mage instead of Bone Spirits. And I'm guessing the mages are going to do way more damage, but I'm just curious if I was fighting a boss, what the difference is like having this Bone Spirit Essence. Okay, just 20 more seconds to go. Just 10 more seconds. And pause there. Okay, 272 million. And let's take a look here. So look at that. Bone Spirits is pretty weak there. Only 4.8 million. That's 1.8%. But obviously because we only had the one spirit, because we were fighting just one enemy, that's why I was saying this isn't really going to be that useful when you're fighting a boss or anything. Let me try the same thing but with Skeletal Mage instead of Bone Spirits. And I'm just curious what the difference is like. So let's go with Scattered Light, for example. Let me equip the mages now. Okay, here we go. So once again, I'm just going to attack for 1 minute. Now, as you can see, I don't have just that one Bone Spirit spinning around me, but I have got 3 mages all attacking at the same time, with the Grim Scythe spinning around me, and the Corpse Lance going as well. So I reckon I'm going to get way more damage here compared to with the Bone Spirits, but I was just curious to see what happens and how much of a difference it is after 1 minute. We got 272 million before, and Bone Spirits only did 1.8% of the damage, which was, I think it was 4.8 million. Actually, it's not too bad. That's not too far off. This is interesting. Oh my god, that is incredible. It's exactly the same, 272 million. And the DPS is roughly the same as well. I had roughly similar DPS. If we have a look at a breakdown, so the difference here is, before Bone Spirits was doing 1.8% damage, which was 4.8 million. This time, Skeletal Mages is doing 11.4%, which is 31.1 million damage. But overall, if we have a look at the rest, I'm doing roughly the same total damage. So 272 million I had before with bone spirits, and the DPS was roughly the same. With the mages swapped in, I'm doing 272 million damage as well. So yeah, that was just something which I was curious about, that I wanted to test, and I was not expecting that at all. I wasn't expecting the damage to be roughly the same. I thought with the mages I was going to get a lot more damage compared to that, just that one bone spirit. But yeah, cool, just a random test that I wanted to try and share that with you all. Okay, I have the essence back on. Now let's take a look at what other bone spirit essences could you use in the shield slot instead of this one if you were using bone spirits in a particular build. So there's one which I still need to look at. I'm going to look at this separately. It's a really interesting one, but it's more PvP related. This is called Kepi Leki's Tribute, or Kepi Leki's Tribute. I don't know how you pronounce that, but this is a really interesting one because you get this like fog conjured, and you get these rafts that target in towards the enemy location, and you get this fog which damages, knocks back enemies. It seems quite a nice one to use in PvP, so I'm going to take a look at that one. The essence we're using at the moment for this particular video is a very PvE heavy one, but if you were going in PvP, then this one here might be more interesting. And let's see what else we have if you want to use bone spirits in a build. We've got Drifter's Fair. This is one of my favorite PvP essences that I like for bone spirits, because it's something which you can stand back and just cast and then let the bone spirits do its thing. So I'd say if you're in PvP, then you'd want to use Drifter's Fair. You wouldn't want to use Death's Egress. And if we keep going down, you've got Soul Leave. Bone spirits now instantly unleashes many spirits, but no longer consumes energy to maintain this effect. I didn't think this essence was that great, to be honest. It's not one that was standing out much, and not one that I'd really recommend, so I wouldn't really be using this. I'd rather use Death's Egress compared to this one. So if I scroll down a bit more, the next one we have is Untapped Marrow. Now for this one, this is where bone spirits now unleashes several spirits in all directions, dealing damage to enemies along their path. This one, you kind of need the enemies to be in a particular location, because you need to sort of time this properly. You need enemies all around you kind of standing at the same spot, and it's kind of a one-time burst for this particular essence. So it's not a continuous effect or anything. You need to make sure you use it at the right time. If you don't, then you kind of waste it, and it kind of like ignores all enemies. So it's okay if you're like stuck in somewhere, but the only thing I don't like about this one is that, you know, you need to be in a specific location and then time it perfectly. There's too much room for error for this particular bone spirit essence, so that's why I'm not too keen on that one. So if we keep on going down, what else do we have? We have the last one here, Guard of the Loom. Bone spirits now conjures a wraith that follows you and continuously hurls soul fight nearby enemies. Now this one is quite fun, to be honest, and it's just as fun as Death's Egress, because you could actually cast this anywhere you want. You don't need to have enemies around you to cast this, and basically wherever you are, it's just going to fire those bone spirit basketballs at enemies, or whatever you want to call them. I wasn't too keen on the animation for this one. I wish they would have done something a bit different to the actual bone spirits that it throws. It looks really cheap, to be honest, to me. So, and it doesn't last that long. So yeah, this one I did try in PvP for a while. It did seem fun for a while, but then that novelty kind of wore off. So they're the different options that you can have in the shield slot for bone spirits. But Death's Egress is pretty cool if you are getting stuck in towards enemies. Like I said, at the end of this video, I think I'm going to try this in a Terror Rift to see how it is. Now the other cool thing is you can start to pair this with other essences. So for example, for the chest slot, if you didn't want Armor of the Damned, if you didn't want to use bone armor here and you got something else instead, now you can increase the efficiency of your bone spirits by having this one here. Bone spirits damage to the same enemy increases by 11.4% with each hit. So if we do skin to bones, and if we look at the skills tab here, definitely keep an eye on the skills tab just to make sure skills are not getting cancelled out. So we've got Spirit Congregation there, and then at the bottom we've got bone spirits damage to the same enemy increases by 11.4%. So you can imagine how useful this would be when you have 5 of those bone spirits spinning around you and on that same enemy as you're going through them. The more that bone spirit hits the enemy, the more damage it's going to deal. So that's quite cool to pair together. Now the other chest essence that you could use that will help for your bone spirits is the one for burning damage, which is this one here. Tempered Urn. Bone spirits deals 38% increased damage to burning enemies. So if you've got ignite status from your augment set, and if you've got something like Rolling Consequence, Starfire Shards, so if you've got a lot of burning happening with your character build, when you do use bone spirits, you can increase the burning damage here. And if we just double check the skills tab, that will work together nicely with Death's Egress. So here we've got Death's Egress, Spirit Congregation, and at the bottom we've got Bone Spirits deal 38% increased damage, and you get another 10% increased damage as well. And also, if you have a look at the weapon slot, you kind of would have to sacrifice a Bone Spear dealing poison damage, but you have also got an essence which increases your Bone Spirits damage even more by 19%, and the energy consumed is lower, but we don't really care about that for this. We're mainly looking at the damage increase, so this will also help you increase your Bone Spirit damage. So that kind of shows you how you can mix together other Bone Spirit essences with this one. Just make sure you check the skills tab and double check that all of the essences that you picked for Bone Spirits actually work together and none of them are cancelled out. And that's pretty much it for this video, taking a look at the Necromancer Bone Spirit Essence Death Egress. So once again, Bone Spirits now draws essence from nearby enemies, conjuring a Bone Spirit for every enemy affected to orbit you for 5 seconds, dealing, and now I get 11,370 damage to enemies it passes through, and you can have a maximum of 5 of those Bone Spirits spinning around you. You don't really want to use this in PvP much, stick to using this in PvE. Don't bother using this when you're just going against a single boss. Use this in things in the game where you've got multiple enemies like Elder Rifts, Terror Rifts, Accursed Towers, things like that. This is going to be super fun to use, and I've just given you an example of how you can use this together with Grim Scythe and Corpse Lance by having all of these 3 things spinning around you at once. And as I said, when you've got those 5 Bone Spirits around you, it makes this even more fun to use. And the damage is not too bad overall when you do consider everything being used at once. So, hope you found that useful, hope you found it fun. The reason I do these is so I can learn a bit about the essence and then also share it with everyone as well as I'm learning about the essence. So I end up finding things that I wasn't aware of and trying things out, so it's pretty cool. I'm going to end the video of me just going into a Terror Rift and trying the essence out there just to see what it's like in that kind of environment. So hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know if you are using this essence and if you find it fun. I would give this essence a thumbs up just because it's a fun one to use.
Shadows rise against you. I must wait and see more. Not yet. I need a corpse for that. That requires a corpse. I must wait, it seems.